Hello, Lit RPG fans. We're here for one of our last panels of the night. We're here with four absolutely incredible authors. Welcome to the Expanding Worlds panel, all about inclusion in the Lit RPG genre. Let's introduce who's our wonderful authors. We have the first to my right, Stephen Landry. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Stephen Landry. I have written 17 books total across a variety of genres. Uh, I am the author of the Stardiver series, the standalone Pop Smoke. I've also co-authored Temple of the Storm, which is a young adult fantasy series with Robbie Below. I co-authored Vampire Sorcerer, which is exclusive to Audible with Alex Etzios. And recently, Station Company Core with Jeffrey Falcon Logue. And we just released book 3 last week on audio through Podium.
And Jeffrey's such a nice guy, man.
Yes.
He's awesome.
Absolutely incredible. How about you, JJ?
Yeah, I'm JJ Akernacht or Justin or Jayak, whatever you please. I write Homicidal Aliens Are Invading, and all I got is the stat menu and its sequels, the fourth of which should be coming out hopefully in November. We'll see. Not nearly as prolific as Steven, but maybe someday if I keep it up.
We all want to grow. How about you, Tao?
No, Tao.
Hi, I'm Tao Wong. I write the System Apocalypse World, which is a main series and also has a bunch of co-authored works in it, currently at 4, and A Thousand Lee, Adventures in Broad, and just a bunch of other works. And thanks, John.
He just knocks it out of the park. I mean, Tao is just genius. I have to say his restaurant series just blew me away.
I want to step in here and just say thank you, Tal. Like, your System Apocalypse was one of the books in Lit RPG that first really resonated with me, and really happy to be on a panel with you.
Thanks.
And last but definitely not least, JD Glasscock, the incredible Nocturne author.
Hey, I'm just, you know what? I'm in deep gratitude and humbled to finally be able to be a full-time writer and make a living doing what I love. But that enough people know me now that I don't have to constantly say my name is not a pen name and I don't write harem is awesome, man. It's literally like that in itself is worth almost anything. Can you imagine? I'm 53, so imagine 53 years of me having to constantly tell people that's my name.
Yep. It's the nature of it, but we're glad you're here.
It's fine. Finally, now I don't have that question that it was like inevitable of people thinking it was like some fake name and I'm a wannabe porn star or whatever the fuck it was. But anyway, JD Glasscock, I write Nocturne. I also shoot film. I did music for a long time, and I started off 34 years ago as like a slam poet on national teams. But I really found the thing that fulfills my whole creative. All I've ever really wanted to do is create worlds, and I did that in all those other mediums in one way or another. But really, the ultimate dream was always to just create worlds. And so, finally, finding my home and my niche in Lit RPG, and I can't imagine writing any other kind of novel really. And the beautiful people that from day one have immediately started giving me advice, supporting me, welcoming me. It's such a 180 far cry from the film industry that it was very beautiful. Anyway, good.
And that's what this panel is all about, is inclusion. So I'm gonna start with Tao for this first question. Where do you hope the genre is headed when it comes to inclusivity or inclusion? I know we've seen many new authors have been found around the world that have written Lit RPG and have found a way to make it their own. So where do you hope the genre is heading in when it comes to inclusion?
It's an interesting question because we're all pretty much independent authors here. So a lot of it is, if you write it, and want to publish it, it's out there. I think it's very much the question of inclusion really comes down to the readers or the reader types that we have, rather, which kind of I would hope are looking to broaden their taste over time, not just in types of main characters or protagonists that we're looking at, but also in the types of genres that Lit RPG can be added to. We haven't seen a lot of horror stuff. We haven't seen a lot of sci-fi stuff. Female main characters, stories that just don't start from right at the beginning. We're beginning to see this where we have the OP main character at the end, right? But we don't have stories that kind of just start in the middle and kind of a person's life kind of thing. So I'd love to see more aspects of that. Obviously, I want readers to embrace
Absolutely.
all kinds of protagonists, whatever sexuality or race or whatever there is. But I think a lot of that is up to us finding these readers rather than, expecting it, because as independent authors, whoever writes it, the work is out there. It's finding those readers. That's the problem.
Of course. How about you, Stephen?
I actually wrote a book a couple of years ago, Mira Song. It's set in the Stardiver series, and I broke every one of like what people called the rules at the time. I had a female main character. She lost her arm, so she was also disabled. It was sci-fi. It was a sci-fi fantasy. And she was bisexual. I remember posting it on Royal Road and getting torn apart.
Well, that's not hard to do on Royal Road. Doesn't matter where you're at.
When I actually released it, when I engaged with the community, everybody that got their hands on it absolutely loved it. And I was worried. I was so scared. I remember being so afraid at the time. But I had to push myself to do something because it was what I wanted to do. I wanted to write this story. This is a story that I felt had to be told.
Absolutely.
And since that time, I have only seen the community and the genre grow more and more diverse and be more inclusive. And I think if I were to go back and I am actually working on another series with a female protagonist that's a Tamer series, and everybody I've talked to about it are just in love. And I think that that's so cool to see. Yes, there were some growing pains, but as the genre has evolved, we're evolving past that.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. What about you, JJ?
I'm actually a bit like Steven, where I just made completely against type main character. I actually fell accidentally into Lit RPG. I did not know it was a genre when I started writing my story. It was based off of a Reddit writing prompts post. It was just like, oh, you get a system and it can do anything. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll write a little thing. And then somebody in the comments said this was fun and I should put it on Royal Road. And I expanded it, and then I was like, maybe I should do some research on this and see what other people on the website think. And then I realized I was going to psych myself out if I did that. So I'm just going to post it. So yeah, same as Steven, female main character, bisexual, mostly science fiction to start off, some fantasy elements later. Took place in the modern day on Earth. So just like no fantasy stuff, no isekai, nothing like that. I was actually lucky. Steven said he got ripped apart on Royal Road. I only got lightly maimed, which was pretty good. I was quite relieved. But I think if I had known ahead of time, I hope I still would have written the story that came to me first, that I would have gone through with that. And I hope anybody listening to this who is thinking about writing their own story, that yes, it's important to, see kind of what the genre conventions are and be informed about those, but to not feel like it is a strict rule set. And that if you feel
Absolutely.
that you have something that you want to see represented in the genre, the very least we can do as enthusiasts and fans and colleagues of our fellow writers is to not gatekeep, and to be just like, JD was saying about, this compared to Hollywood and how welcoming it was. And that
Oh,
we
absolutely.
we can't always affect what our readers will consume, but we can affect how we treat our fellow authors and new voices in the genre. And I think if we can at least keep an open mind about that, then it will continue to grow. And hopefully that's the case.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with everything that each of you have said so far. JD.
Well, I think a couple of things. One, if Matt Dinniman's deal, actually they produce it and create it as opposed to just option and sit on it. I don't know what their deal is actually consists of. But if it actually gets made, I think that's going to be doing insane things for the future. Because I think your original question was about the future of literature, right?
Yep.
Is going to be doing insane things for helping the genre out as a whole, bringing fans, bringing all sorts of things. Just like I think the success of Critical Role and Dungeons and Dragons did wonderful things, and the driving popularity of Dungeons and Dragons did wonderful things for the genre. Secondly, now I myself was welcomed heavily by several people. I would say maybe sometimes people are a little too cavalier with throwing advice around without knowing the actual, because I think, first of all, there's 1,000 roads. I just talked about this in my takeover. There's 1,000 roads to Damascus. There's no one way to do anything. And a lot of it depends on what the author is wanting to get out of it, what their financial situation is, what their home situation is, what do they just want to create worlds, or do they want to make money, or blah, 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 blah. And I see a lot of authors sometimes just throw these blanket pieces of advice that are more geared towards people usually with really good fiscal jobs away from being an author, or at least solid fiscal jobs where they can afford a lot of these things. Because they'll just throw, make sure you have an editor, make sure you have this, make sure you have that, or don't publish until you have all those things. And that's not actually a reality for a lot of people. So I would just say that. I would say, first of all, the question being the future, I think the future looks bright. I think literally just in the 2 years I've been in it, it's probably tripled at least.
Oh, absolutely.
The amount of books coming out in the genre, if not more than that.
Yeah, it's incredible what has come out.
At very least. And I'm super happy for Matt. I got to play D&D with him all day today. It was very cool. I'm super happy for him. I feel like if his project gets turned into, whether it's a TV show, an animation, a movie, whatever it is, by what's his name, McFarlane, that'll do also wonders. And then I would just say, when people are, I think giving advice is good and supportive is good. I would just say maybe be a little more first digging into who they are as people, what their goals are and stuff, before just blanketing advice. Because a lot of times young authors, especially, or beginning authors, regardless of their age, are very susceptible to all that stuff. And they just take whatever is being thrown at them as like gospel, and that's what they should be doing, even if it doesn't actually suit them or fit them. And a lot of young beginning authors can easily be discouraged and quit for a variety of reasons. So I would just say, especially to veteran authors or people that have a lot of success, have a little more weight on your shoulders and understanding how your words affect these young ones, you know what I mean, or beginning authors.
Absolutely. And I have a question, and based on that, and so I'm going to make sure to get to that. I wasn't going to bring this up just yet, but you each have brought this up beautifully, and it's wonderful. So obviously, it's something that's on the community's mind. We're going to start with Stephen on this one. Do you feel that there's an appropriate ratio of female versus male MCs in the genre? And in an additional question to that, how do you think we can help there to be more MCs represented in the genre?
Not yet. I don't think the ratio is quite equal yet. But I do think that we are getting there. And I think the best way to get there is just to keep continuing to grow, keep continuing to invite people into the community. I know my partner, Tori Graham Moon, she's not here right now, but me and her, we're working on a new series to launch next year. And we're really excited about it. We've talked to other female authors in other genres who have read Lit RPG and are really excited about it, but also they still have that kind of apprehension, that fear of jumping in.
Of course.
I think it's not growing pains at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
It's just growing.
Yes, absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree with you. What about you, JJ?
I guess it depends on what you mean by an appropriate number of female main characters. Like,
I'm not meaning that I don't think there's not enough, nor is there too many. I'm just wanting to make sure that the idea is inclusion. We want to make sure that we're seeing.
Let me jump back in there really quick. I think that right now the genre, if you're a guy and you're going into it, you got a story for everything. You got post-apocalyptic. You've got some sci-fi. You've got your dungeon core. You've got basically everything you can imagine. But women coming into the genre, there's not a lot of romance. There's not a lot of like that dark fantasy. There's not a lot of even alpha and omega type stories. There's still room to grow, and even then, there's just the isekai. There's not a lot of female isekai protagonists that people are able to relate to. So women getting into the genre, a lot of the times we'll be reading a book that is about a male character.
I think I mostly agree with that. Not so much that it's like a numbers thing, but it's an options thing.
Yes,
like recently I was reading Apocalypse Parenting by Aaron Ampersand, which has a female main character who is like a mother in a post-apocalyptic like lit RPG situation where she's got to take care of the kids in the middle of all this other crazy nonsense that's going on. And that's a really unique perspective to see that you wouldn't otherwise that you don't see a lot of. And I think if we can get more options, like what Stephen was saying, for female main characters, then that's fantastic. So it's not just like, okay, if you want a guy main character, okay, you've got like the edgelord, or you've got the wacky, witty, snarky main character, or you've got this guy, or the heavy action adventure or whatever. But then if you want a female main character, you've only got this one stereotype that keeps getting repeated. And I don't think that's gonna do much for an audience. And eventually that might be like, oh, if I want a female main character, my options are limited, which isn't great. As for your other question of like, well, how do we ensure that we see more main characters that are more diverse? I mean, the obvious answer is to write them. But that's as an author, that's one person writing one book, or maybe a few at a time if they're quite prolific. And as readers, if you see something that you like, then like go support it. It doesn't have to mean like buying 20 copies. You could just go recommend it on Reddit or whatever. Just make sure you get some eyes on it.
Absolutely. JD.
Well, I mean, I did a female MC, my superhero one, African American on top of it, and talked hip hop slang through the entire thing, but it didn't sell worth shit. But more of that had to do with superhero. It's kind of a niche. And 2, it was only like 300 pages long, which is also not what people in Lit RPG want. They want literally like at least 450, 500 pages. And it was the final kind of tilting point where I finally said, I'm going to listen to all these people and I'm going to literally like start writing to market, because I want to actually make a living and do the things. But I still would love to go back and finish that series someday. And then as far as my film work, if you go look at my short films, most of my short films are all female leads. The one feature I want to shoot first when I move to Portugal next year is God Among Sheep, The Rise of Maria Salvatore. And that is literally female mafia boss that wants to basically teach all the males in mafia that a woman can do everything they do better. So I agree. I just think it's about opportunity and it's about support. I mean, you have people like Shammy, who's killing it. She has like 2 Dragon nominations. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah, absolutely.
it's not like it can't happen. I think it's a confluence of a lot of things. Just like success period in novels and lit RPG. It's whether you're a guy or a girl, it's not easy at all. The biggest challenge to all of us is to have a series that hits. You know what I mean? Like that's the biggest challenge
Yes.
of all of us. None of us can do anything until we have a series that actually hits and is successful. You know?
Absolutely.
But I think you can do that with a female MC. I just think you have to write the right story behind it, the right skill behind it, the right everything behind it. And I think a woman author can do whatever she wants. KT's popular. KT worked with Tao. KT has had several series kill it. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
Phoenix Gray was one of the first people to reach out to me and support me, give me advice, all that stuff. She has killed it. She killed it in romance before Lit RPG. She killed it in Lit RPG, and now she's killing it making lewd Dungeons and Dragon board games for couples. You know what I mean? So it's doable. I just think it like for any author, male, women, doesn't matter. It's literally hitting it. It's basically finding a story that finds resonance in a bigger audience. And but me myself, I know your better half is about to start writing her story. If there's anything I can do to help and support you, and I'll put you up on suggested books on my author page, whatever the hell you want, I'm all about support. Anyone that knows me knows that. I'm all about wanting everyone to succeed, because I think I've never looked at anything as, oh, that's my piece of pie. There's a shit ton of pie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
There's enough
Absolutely.
pie for everyone.
Yeah.
And I want everyone to succeed. And I will always, if people reach out to me, or even if they don't reach out to me, I'm always about supporting other people to find their aspirations and their dreams and find fulfillment of those things, you know? So,
Oh, absolutely. And this is just my opinion on the topic, because I've seen this a lot. We have a lot of representation in with female MCs, but it tends, and this is just my opinion, don't hate me for this, but we tend to see a lot of male authors writing those female MCs. And just my personal opinion, this is not fact for Lit RPG, but I would love to see more female authors writing more female MCs. And I'm so grateful that Stevens and his partner is going to be doing that. We look forward to reading what you have coming. So, Tao.
I don't think that's very much more to add to whatever else everyone has said. I'm just going to quickly mention that there's a reason why a lot of female authors either write under a non-diplom or they don't write female MCs. It generally doesn't sell in the genre. The only way that's going to change is if other people, if you find a series that you like, and if it's female, shout it out. Unfortunately, what we see, and this happens everywhere. I mean, it's not just Lit RPG,
Absolutely.
but you go to Reddit Fantasy. The joke is, what type of book do you want? It's Malazan. it doesn't matter what, it's always the answer is Malazan. We see that with questions coming in, what type of book should I read? Well, I should read Primal Hunter, DCC, whatever.
Catherine Miller, though, is a female MC, and that thing's killing it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with any of those books. They're great books. I mean, everyone loves them for a reason. However, it would be great if, the speaker, the listeners, and if you find something like Apocalypse Parenting, Honore has written some great books as well. Things like that, where there are female-led characters. I don't want to drop Kate, name drop Katie, but yeah, Katie's works. Shout it out as well. That's the only way it's going to change.
Absolutely.
That's basically it.
I absolutely agree. So moving on to inclusion in not necessarily a male versus female, something that was brought up to me today when I was preparing for this was how often we aren't seeing monster MCs. We've seen a large portion of that, but I'd like to see more.
Sean Hall did one, and then Life Reset.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, what's your opinions on that? Would you like to see different types of creatures? Because we've seen a lot of goblin and type MCs, but I have yet to see. I can't say this because we did see a Mimic as an MC and knocked it out of the park. He's doing amazing. But on that same idea, JJ, what would you like to see more in the monster creature type MCs? He's in any genre, but specifically for lit RPG.
Well, confession, I haven't read a lot of monster MC books. The only one I'm really kind of familiar with is Chrysalis, and I don't know if an ant qualifies as a monster.
I would qualify it.
But the common complaint I've seen online about monster MC books is that eventually the monster MC just starts acting like a human. Like they level up and then they gain intelligence or awareness, and then they're basically just a human with a different skin. Like, okay, it's a lizard man or an ant or whatever, or a mimic, but now they're just acting like a person, and their monstrous persona or whatever made them intellectually alien or other from regular people is now gone. So I guess on behalf of all the monster MC fans out there, who maybe I will join you someday, if you're going to write a monster MC, keep them as a monster. Maybe doesn't have to necessarily be evil monster, just weird, I guess. I'll try to read more monster MC books when I can get around to it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I've thought of this myself, and it was something brought up with me as I was discussing with people over this. JD, what about you?
First of all, Gray, I still want to see your art. So take a photo or something with your phone. What was I going to say? I always think monster thing is going to be a niche thing, man. Now, can a niche thing become big? Yeah. That's been shown several times over. I just think people got to remember how young Lit RPG is. I've only been in it for 2 years, but it really only started getting going, 2015, 16, something like that. It's not, in as far as America and Lit RPG and being known as Lit RPG, it's really young, man. It takes do you know how long fantasy was around before you saw anything really different? It was pretty much mostly the same kind of trope for a long time. After Tolkien, everyone tried to be Tolkien. And I love David Eddings, but he was pretty much trying to be his version of Tolkien. You know what I mean? You had exceptions, though, even back then. The original Conan, Grim Dark stuff, White Gold Wielder. You had people doing niche things, and some of them even became popular. Fred Saberhagen and the Swords, and then you had Dragonlance, which blew up for Dungeons and Dragons. You can be successful in niche fields, but it depends. Again, we go back to what is your goal? Is your goal just to tell the stories that you want to tell, regardless of whatever? Or is your goal to make a financial living telling stories? You know what I mean? Like which one of the, because you can, even writing to market, dude, Nocturne. Yeah, I wrote to market, but you think I'm telling a story I don't like? Like I literally went to the books that are popular that I love reading and made my version of it. So it's not one or the other, but if you want to do these kind of niche, your own thing that's off the beaten path of what's popular, go for it. But what is your goal? Is your goal to find financial success, or is your goal just to have a little niche audience that and not care about making money and just write what you want to write? You know what I mean? Before I could ever give, and I talked about this in my takeover, before I could ever give advice to anybody else, I would first literally sit with them and go over everything about where they are in life financially, what are their goals, what do they want to do, what are they trying to do with it, all of those things before I would sit there and then maybe give advice. And even then I would give like the James Hunter moniker of, remember to throw away anything out of my mouth that doesn't fit you.
It's true.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
you know, there's so many nuances to all of these questions and these subjects that we're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. There's
trying to
no
pigeonhole it into a black and white answer, I just don't think is valid.
Yeah, and I don't expect a black and white answer. There's so many niches, like Lit RPG. Every author has found their own avenue, and I love that each avenue is something that enlightens my brain in a different way, and I love it. Tao, what's your thoughts on this?
I mean, I think JJ was right in the sense that a lot of the monster MCs start feeling like they are very human. I think for me, when I'm reading a lot of monster MC ones, I get bored with them after a certain point because I think a lot of them stretch themselves out too far. And part of the fun is that, you know, you're seeing all of these evolutions and, you know, all the changes that are new and different. And then that, you know, you don't see with your normal human isekai, you know, character class system. And when it does become very much, oh, hey, they're becoming a human being or whatever, or their decisions are making human beings and they've, you know, can transform into a human being, it stops being interesting. I think it's the unique challenges that you see with monster MCs that make them fascinating. And when the unique challenges go away, the work stop being as interesting. But I'd love to see more. The ones that I've seen, I've read through a number of them. They're always quite, as I said, they're really interesting in the beginning. Some of them continue being really good, like Lars, Master of the Horde with the dragon. He changes up what's happening.
I love Lars. He's funny.
And there is an ending.
Yeah, he's amazing.
Finishes it off. So there's always a very clear story arc. And but it's, I mean, part of the problem of having a new genre, right? With a lot of new authors in it. You know, most of us don't know how to write when we start. Right, we're learning as we go along, and so we're learning. Oh, hey, maybe we do need a story out. We do need an ending for all of this because we can't continue forever because people get bored, you know. So there's a lot of things that, as a genre, as writers, that we're learning.
Of course.
Can I interrupt just 1 second? Great. Did you bring me photos of art?
I was going to bring this up, JD. Give me a minute. We have to welcome Greya. Welcome to the panel. We're so glad to have you here. You are just as much a part of this panel as Stephen is. We need your opinions. So
I appreciate that. Yeah. I'm glad to be here. Sorry I was late. I just got off.
No, you're fine.
Job.
We understand. Don't worry.
So yeah, I'm gonna let you take over for a second. Let me compose my thoughts.
Yeah, she's fine.
This is actually a really, really interesting question because I currently have 2 works in progress. One on my Patreon called Monster Monday, where one of the main characters, it's an ensemble group about basically a squad of monster hunters, and one of the characters is Frankenstein's monster, and another character is just been turned into a golem, so he's a monster now, and he's dealing with that. I also have a work in progress where called Kaiju Core that's coming out next year, where it's horror and lit RPG apocalypse, and the character actually becomes possessed by a kaiju. And one of the things is that they kind of during the course of the book, they are actually becoming more and more of a monster. So it's less of it's still a monster MC, but it's about how do you retain that humanity without going overboard.
Absolutely.
One of the In Total Protectors, the series that we're launching next year, it has a human MC, but she is surrounded by characters that are monsters.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I added to this story was that she falls in love with a set of characters, generations of these, what happens after somebody chooses to become monster-like in order to survive on a planet. And this is what they don't seem like monsters. They have that human aspect, but like they have their own culture and respect for the nature around them. And she is developing this relationship with that character. And it's one of those things where you have to find a balance between, okay, not going too far human, but not going too far monster.
And at the same time, like the characters in the MC, they need to feel relatable. And I think that's why a lot of works kind of go into that more human aspect. And I think that's something that has been romanticized throughout literary works. Vampires are a big example of that. Werewolves. You see it across all of the supernatural genres.
Oh, of course. So, John Doe, I read your question, and I think we applied it in a previous question, but I'm going to read it out loud for you, and they can decide if they feel we answered it. Tao wrote John Lee so well and made him so relatable. Do you think any of you guys could write a woman MC as well? And I know that Stephen has written a female MC very well. I love Stardivers.
Oh, and let me blow this window up. Okay.
Yeah, you're fine. And
very
I know that
cool.
has written
cat? Is that a cat?
Female.
Sorry, I'm getting glare. Is that a cat or a fox?
It is a space cat, actually. So this right here is a planet, and then like that's a cat just kind of chilling, being.
I like that you're putting realistic realism in with abstract. It's very cool. You rarely see that. People usually do surrealism, realism, or abstract, and you were kind of mixing.
Absolutely.
Those.
So on that, do you guys feel we answered that? Because I think we definitely have seen that at least two of you have written female MCs beautifully. I've not had a chance to read JD's yet, but I'm gonna check it out. I've stuck with Nocturne, but I've read JJ's. I love JJ's. I love Stevens. There's just amazingness to that.
Yeah, I'm not. Don't worry about me, bro. I'm not. I don't ever care whether people read my stuff or don't read my stuff. I literally don't.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. It pertains to the question. Do you think any of you guys could write a woman MC as well as a woman could write a female MC? And I think I'm going to go to Tao for this because I know at least three of you guys have written a female MC.
Truthfully, I am scared of it. I haven't written a direct female MC myself. I've worked with co-authors who have had female MCs, but it's something that I don't know. I mean, it's not something that you'll know until you write it and then you get feedback on, right? You can try and do the best you can, do the research, do the work inside it, get feedback, but you won't know until you try. So it's, for me, I haven't tried yet. There are stories that I want to tell that probably work best with a female MC. Well, one of them has to be a female MC. When I'll get around to that and get the courage to do it, we'll see.
See, I find that funny, Tao. This is just my opinion. With your restaurant series, I know it's just a small series, but I feel like your MC is a female. Like, a lot of the story revolves around her as a waitress, and I think you've done it very well. And that's just my opinion.
Thank you. I'm slowly moving towards POVs where the female is, there's more female POVs inside my stories, instead of just a single one. But I don't know, it's tricky, and it's one of those blind spots I would expect. We all have, what is that, imposter syndrome? This is one of mine, kind of thing. It's like, I don't know.
I can appreciate that. What about you, Stephen? Do you think you wrote your female MC as well as
a lot of questions
female did?
Oh, so many questions. And he got very honest answers to what I would do in a situation of, like, with Mira Song, like in like the romance, non-romance aspect of it, because the character is, without coming out and saying it, the character is bisexual. And I know from experience that how that is and how difficult it is to navigate that kind of thing. And, the fact that he put it in there subtly and beautifully the way that he did was just, my hat's off to you, because I honestly don't think I could have done a better job.
I've also been blessed with like an amazing family. I got my sister, my nieces. Anytime I've ever had a question when writing a female MC, I've always had a place to turn. And I think that has made it extra special to me, being able to create that character, not just because they're a character that I created, but they're someone that my family, the people that are close to me, can relate to.
Mm-hmm.
And I grew up surrounded only by women, man. Literally. It was me, two sisters, mom, grandmother. I mean, that literally meant most of the time my door was shut with a do not disturb sign on it. But still, literally, and they're all like super strong, willful, like women. My mom worked like 50-hour weeks and at the same time put herself through realtor school and then became a property manager after working shit jobs for most of our childhood. I mean, she got remarried, but I was already 15 by the time she did that. So,
and I think it's one of the things, like when you're writing a female MC, like the challenges that they face versus what if a male MC was facing the same, the female MC is always going to be questioned. I had mentioned earlier my story getting ripped apart on Royal Road, and that was one of the things. If I had written a male MC, I don't think that would have happened. People would have just accepted it. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that I think we're getting better at as a community, readers, and all that.
And I think inclusion is going to broaden. It's going to get better and better. But there are times that we need to talk about where we're lacking, and that's okay. We're working on it, and we're going to do better, because that is what this genre is about. We're about inclusion in every way. JJ.
I don't know if it's for me to say if I wrote a woman as well as another woman author might have. I definitely, got got help from my wife and other ladies in my life who were, like part of my writing group or, friends or whatever, that I showed them early drafts. And they were extremely helpful in pointing things out to me. That's like, okay, well, this scene wouldn't necessarily happen like this. There's a scene where the main character, who is a woman, goes to a park in Brooklyn late at night. And one of my author friends commented and said, okay, she's doing that now because she has actual superpowers. And she needs to have some kind of moment of awareness where she needs to think like, there's no way I would be doing this if I couldn't blow up a bus, like by snapping my fingers, basically. And so she has this moment where she's in a park in Brooklyn in the middle of the night. And she's like, this is so weird that I can just like do this now that I'm just here. And I don't have to worry about shit like that anymore. Like, what a little surreal moment I'm having. That, yesterday I was worrying about going on the subway, and today I'm strolling out at past midnight in Brooklyn into the
Yeah.
darkest part of like Prospect Park without, whatever, I can handle it. So little details like that would just like completely go by me. But thankfully, thank goodness for beta readers. So I'm sure I've made some missteps and overlooked some things just because that is not my experience. But
And I feel like it goes the other way too, man. I mean, a woman is perfectly capable and can be supremely skilled at writing a man.
It's true.
There's
no doubt about that.
The other way.
Yeah. So, hopefully if I've made missteps, they're minor, and nothing too glaringly awful or whatever. And as long as they're pointed out to me and I can learn from them, then, do better the next time. But yeah, just do what you can. Show your work to somebody else who's from whatever group you are not, or demographic you are not necessarily a part of, whether that's age, race, sexuality, gender, whether you're neurotypical or not. Just show it to somebody. As long as you get input from the area and experience that is not your own to inform your work, then I think you'll mostly be okay.
I think that's a really big thing, is like, don't take stereotypes, do the research, talk to people, understand people, empathize. And so that way you can then create those characters.
And I think Tao has probably a great perspective on it. He's because he has multiple authors working within his world that he created, both female and male. So he probably has a great perspective on their skill sets in writing the other gender.
Absolutely. I just got a question in here from Kat. How can writers ensure that they avoid tokenism while striving for diversity in their characters and settings? And I had to look up tokenism because I didn't understand it myself. So I hope that you understand what she means. We're going to start with JD.
Tokenism. Is that what she said?
Yeah.
I'm seeing it right here. How can writers ensure that they avoid tokenism while striving for diversity? I'm not quite sure what you're defining as tokenism. You mean like, I think I take it as like not fleshing out something in a kind of a shallow dive in what they're creating. Is that what she means by it?
I'm not.
But I think
I'm
as a writer,
sure.
straight up, unless you're writing action porn,
generally when they say tokenism, it means having a character, or whether it's female or a racial character in there that is there just because, whatever.
Oh, okay, I got it. Okay, so I hate that. I hate that. Like, you see that in TV. For a while, the most recent one was Me Too movement. So all of a sudden you saw every TV show like trying to shove that fucking thematic into, and I think it cheapens whatever that is. And I worked as a background actor for 8 years in LA, and I worked on every TV show and feature film you can think of as the bar patron or the whatever it is. And almost every episode for a while, even when it didn't fit in the story they were telling, they had to have the gay character. Like, I could give a shit whether I'm friends with everybody. I don't care who wants to have sex with who wants to love who, all beautiful. but do not throw things in a story just to appeal to some kind of audience when it doesn't fit. You're like trying to shove a square in a circle and just to appease, like, I mean, I kind of relate it, and you see it in writing all the time, man. Kind of like Jurassic Park. All of a sudden, the new one comes out. All of a sudden, you see 8 B films called Jurassic something in the next like month and a half. You know what I mean? So, I always say, write your story, and whatever fits with your story, do so. If that's 83 trans characters, then beautiful, go for it. Write a brilliant story about it. Write it great. Write a perfect one. But don't shove some kind of token archetype in there because you're trying to gather that crowd in, and it doesn't fit, and it ruins the story and ruins the plot and ruins all those things. The story should always be first. The character should always be first. And by doing those things brilliantly, you will hopefully resonate with the audience.
Absolutely.
And, you know, tell whatever story you want. I judge people on who they are, not who they have sex with, not the color of their skin, not whether they're male, female, he, she, they, it, whatever. But to me, you have a responsibility when you tell a story to that story. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
that should always be number one.
Yeah, absolutely. Tao.
I agree.
Either Tao or Stephen. Yeah. Either Tao or Stephen, and jump in.
2 things I wanted to mention.
Okay.
One, I think you can, especially if it's race or something like that, or gender flipping or whatever it is, you can just not, you can just ignore it and not explain it. I mean, take a look at Bridgerton as an example, where they just threw, POC characters everywhere. There is no explanation for it. There is no discussion about it. It's just there. The story is there. You can do that if that's what you're going for, right? It's never discussed.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. You can do that with gay characters who are just gay, or bi or whatever it is. I do that a lot with Sister Apocalypse, where it's just never comes up as an issue. It's just people are there. Now, that's not necessarily everyone's experience with it, but it can be something that you can play with. If you chose that, that's almost like a thematic element of what your story is doing. The other opposite side of it is if you are putting a character who is generally in a minority, have a reason and make it important for why they are specifically whatever. The Rookie actually has a really good example of that coming in, or Brooklyn 99, right? Where you have the black characters in there who are, they're gay or they're black. It's sometimes mentioned, but it's not all that they are.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And so you have to play with both the fact that, as JD said, they have to be important to the story, but who they are outside of that sometimes does matter, and it can matter a lot. So those are the 2 things you have to balance if you're going to even handle that. So that's the 2 areas. I'll let other people.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tao. Stephen, what do you think? And of course, Greya.
That I agree with both of them 100% completely. And honestly, I hope that the idea of tokenism and all that is something that society moves away from, and that people can just exist.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was one of the things when Stephen was writing Mirror Song, is that it's a part of her being bi, but it's not all of her. And I think he drew on the fact that some of that came from me, in that, like, that's a part of me, but it's not all of who I am. And he mirrored the character a little bit on me. So, like, it's finding that balance, and it's finding joy, but also, like, putting it into perspective where it can be relatable for other people.
Absolutely. And finally, JJ.
Mostly echoing what other people have said, that, you know, if you like, as long as you're making this person a character and you're not just like leading with this obvious stereotype, like you'll see a lot of this in, you know, some movies or film. They'll say it's the first gay kiss ever, and it's like half a second of something like way in the background, and then they delete it before they send it off to the, you know, foreign markets or whatever, where that kind of thing is. It's like, okay, well, now you're just being a jerk about it. Like,
Mhm.
if you're gonna put a minority character in your story, you know, do it from your chest, like put them in there and
Mhm.
acknowledge it and have it be part of their character, but not the whole thing. On the flip side of this, and kind of touching on a couple of things JD was saying, is that I've often found that there is a lot of enhanced scrutiny for unfairly to justify the existence of marginalized characters in books. So, like, oh, well, you have a trans character in your book. You need to tell me exactly why they're there. Why couldn't you just make them cis? It's like, well, why do I need to do that? They can just be like, trans people just exist,
You could
man,
just be a
or
person
whoever.
and they happen to
Yeah,
be trans.
yeah, they're
It's
just
true.
they don't need this whole long diatribe for why
Yep.
they're allowed to exist. They can just be in a story. It's fine. So it is like a real fine line to walk, where it's like, okay, I want to be inclusive, but I don't just want to, you know, shake a bunch of stereotypes into my story so I can, you know, you don't want to take the check mark approach. Where it's
No,
like, okay,
exactly.
got this one, got that one, like it's Pokemon or something. Like, these are still
Absolutely.
people and experiences you're representing that you need to be cognizant of. But at the same time, you don't need to put everything under a microscope and have this justification for, you know, why these people should be allowed to be represented in fiction. Like, they exist. That's
Absolutely.
enough. That's all you got. And like everything else, I think as long as you're doing it earnestly and respectfully, or at least trying, then that'll hopefully come through. And even if you make a mistake, then hopefully you can bounce back from it, recover, and fix it later on.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna stop up questions there because we need enough time for you guys to shout yourselves out, because we want to know where we can find you. We want to know where we can get your books, because we love have everything and you've said, and we want to find you. So please, we'll start with Greya and Stephen. Where can we find you? We would love to.
You can find my books on Amazon. Links below. I can also writing Monster Monday, Werewolf Wednesday, and Kaiju Core coming soon to my Patreon. I also have Vampire Sorcerers available to read on Web Novel, Scribd, and all of the like serial websites. And her series Total Protectors is coming out next year. It'll also be available on Amazon.
Yes. Awesome. JJ.
I'm on Amazon too. Just do a search for JJ Acronact, or my really long book title, which I'm sorry for. Homicidal Aliens Are Invading, and all I got is the stat menu. I also have a website, jjacronact.com, which is on screen right now, where this has links to all my other assorted social stuff. I do have a Patreon, but it's pretty mellow. If you can just get updates for free. That's about all I post on there. But yeah, that's it. I hope to see somebody around in the Discord or wherever.
We do too. We want to see you guys at the after party. Tao.
You can find me at Amazon, obviously, Audible, also starletpublishing.com, which is my publishing website for myself and all my co-authors' work. Yeah, hope to see you all around.
Yes, we love you, Tao. JD.
All right, let me preface this first, because I always like we're talking about inclusivity and validity to my statement. So when I was young, man, I was in bands. I made out, messed around, boys, girls, doesn't matter, man. I don't give a shit about what anyone, if you love whatever you love, but you're a person who you have sex with, really doesn't matter, in my opinion. I happen to not really end up figuring out guys weren't really my thing, but I think if we are less judgmental on all of that shit and quit defining people by gay, straight, bi, trans, people are just human, man.
Yeah.
And if you're going to judge them on that they're an asshole or not an asshole, you know what I mean? Like, not who the hell.
JD, I love you, but we need to know where we can find you. Come on.
People have been. I've been on this Guildify for like a week straight.
I know you have.
But and Glasscock really wouldn't be that hard to figure it out.
Well, we appreciate everything that you guys have said tonight. It is one of the most amazing panels that I've had the chance to moderate. You guys have opened up new neural pathways in my mind, gives me more things to think about, and I appreciate you all so much. You're some of my favorite authors. I've followed each of you in my own way. Each of you has something that I love, and I will always love, because you guys helped me to join the genre. We
did a great
appreciate
job,
you. I enjoy what I do. This is a labor of love, because I love you guys with all my heart.
And it was
so,
a beautiful
thanks,
blessing
Kyle.
being on the panel with everybody, you guys.
Yeah. So we're gonna send off the awkward wave.
Bye.
Bye, guys.